Hello and welcome to my quick screen recording of HGST Virident Solutions version 2. Really straightforward. We're going to really get on and go through a quick demonstration of basically the vSpace option, and this allows you to do some fantastic what we call card pooling for environments such as Oracle RAC, MySQL, Mongo, Hadoop, Red Hat, and of course things like KVM as well inside of Linux. So it's HGS Virident Solutions 2. You can get all the data and information about this product up here on this website, and the key thing about it is there's a fact sheet as well. It covers a lot of other products in terms of caching and sharing, but today we're going to go through some really simple pooling of cards and the ability to share that to a client. So let's have actually a look at what we're actually going to have a demo today. And what I've set up is two servers. One is called CentOS server and one is called CentOS client. And each one of those servers has a FlashMax 2 card, just a 550 gig, our entry level card. And that's basically serving a raw device into Linux, their VGCA 550 gig. And then what we're going to do is basically pull these cards together using a technology called vSpace. And basically what that will do is give us basically like an aggregated flash pool, which we can then share out and mount across multiple clients. Very, very straightforward. The interconnection between these two servers is TCP/IP. It will also work with InfiniBand, and the key thing about it is what we're going to do as part of this HA pair is we're going to create high availability. So if we lose one of these, this storage pool or space will keep going. So in this demo, we're just basically showing 100 gig, which would actually take 200 gig because of a mirrored pair here and here. So we'll go through that. There is some other technology where you can link together cards in terms of what we call a striped and linear volume, and I'll cover that on a later session. So let's have a look at what we're doing here. Let's go straight into the demo. So here we have the command line on our CentOS client, and this is using a box standard copy of CentOS Linux and has installed our 550 gig VGCA device FlashMax card. And if I run the command VGC monitor, you'll see that it actually has a toggle called FMC, and that is enabled. Same here. Here's our server. And again, 550 gig card, and it's got FMC enabled. This is the toggle that allows these cards to be pulled together and used with our HGST Virident solution set. So let's get it on and have a look at setting these up into a pool. Right, let's go and log on to the management node, and that's actually our CentOS server, and that's going to basically do the key operations to create our vSpace cluster today. So it's really straightforward. I've created a tab here. You just basically log on to the server with a port, and we enter the username. And this will bring me up a very nice web GUI, which will allow me to create that cluster. And so straight away, it's given me this thing called an aggregated card consumption, because what I've already done is under the domain tab, I've actually added these two nodes into this cluster already to save time. The manager node that you're looking at today, as I said before, is on the CentOS server. And the network's really straightforward. It's just a really simple TCP/IP network version 4. I've got version 6 on here, but the default is version 4. And that's linking the two nodes together. If we actually go to the dashboard, you'll see here it's telling me that I have two cards as an aggregated space available. It's also telling me how much space is available on both of those cards in a raw state, and also the lifetime remaining. How much longevity do those cards actually have in warranty? The other key thing down here is at the bottom there's a status bar telling you things like in progress when it's doing operations. Successful failed is when you try to do something like destroy a file system and you're already mounted, and it will do that. And these operations are under this tab here, and you can, on today's demo, what I'll do is I'll delete all the ones I've done today. I'll just quickly do that. And again, I will show you things like, as we go today, these operations running in the background. So, host view is two hosts in our cluster, if you remember. One's called CentOS Server, one's called CentOS Client. And the key thing here is to look at the packages, the RPMs that I've loaded on. It's really straightforward. These are the ones telling me that these are all successfully loaded. If I also click on the client, again, it's telling me that all of the correct packages and RPMs are loaded onto that version of Linux. Really straightforward part around that. So let's get straight on. The next thing we really do, most of the operations are done in this tab here called Resource View. And again, we can do vShare and VHA, and these are the other two products as part of the Virident or HGST cluster solution suite. But today what we'll do is just pull two cards. So we're going to hit create. And what it's telling me to, because the first thing comes up, which is really good, is it says just give me a name. So let's call this vSpace 2. And then it's telling me a size, how much space compared using both of those cards do I actually want to run and be presented as a file system to any host using our sharing software. So let's just keep it really simple for this demo, as I said before. So I'm going to put in 100 gig. And then it's asking me about this. I could actually just run 100 gig off one of the cards. But what I want to do is basically make sure it's a redundant pair. If I lose a server, I don't lose any data at all across that. So it's like having a mirrored pair. And remember, we can link multiple hosts, not just two like I'm doing today, but multiple hosts together to give you this pooling. So we'll go for a redundant pair. So that will obviously take 100 plus 100. And then basically what I'm going to do here is it's already done this. It says storage host with available space, well, cards. It's already seen these two here. And again, you can remove and add in hosts as you go. And then what it's come back is it's saying actually what hosts do we want to present these to, what applications running on those hosts, on two hosts here, the selected hosts, do we actually want to share this volume out to. So I'm actually just going to take off the server, just the client is what we're going to connect here, but you could actually pool the resources across multiple servers. The other key thing here as well, there's an advanced setting here, and you can actually put in different permissions and different logins around creating vSpace. But let's just keep it really simple today, and that's going to create me 100 gig across those two cards. And what it's going to do, you'll start to see this start, and it says in progress. And what it's actually doing is running, and it's giving you an update commentary here, and it's telling me that it's creating this space across both nodes. Again, if I go to the operations, you can see all this actually happening in the background. And again, it's really clear, very straightforward. Around that, in progress, there's nothing, it's just actually finished. So back to our resources view, and it's straight away come back and told me that it's created a vSpace of 100 gig. It's redundant, which is really important, and it's actually taken 100 gig off each of the hosts, so 50 and 50, and it's the application host. This is where we're going to actually create the file system and mount it. It's presented to the CentOS client. If I expand and we do look at more detail here, you can see that the pooled resource has actually been split 50 and 50. If you remember looking at my diagram, across the diagram, here we are, 50 and 50, 50 and 50, 100 gig usable. And the key thing about that is you can actually drill down even further, and it's telling me the raw device that it's actually taken here. And again, underneath here, really, really simple raw device. The difference though, if you actually look here, is it's actually connected the initiator. These are the targets. Basically, this vSpace 2 is the target, but the initiator, I've only selected the client. If you remember, it's telling me here, the CentOS client can actually access those two pooled resources. The other key thing about this as well, and we could do this in the demo later on, is we can actually grow this pool live, which is really interesting. And if we go back to our dashboard, I think what's really key now, it's telling me across those resources, the two cards, we've actually used 100 gig on each. It's graphically telling me that, which is really, really key. And so literally, let's go back, and what we're going to do is make a file system on that and mount it. That's probably the easiest way to show this. So here we are back at the client, and we're going to have a look at what's actually presented to it. So actually going to have a look at the raw device. Let's go to dev. If I do an ls, you can clearly see here it's actually created some raw devices. And again, there's a lot more documentation in the release notes about what these are. The key one today is the one called vSpace 2. That's what we've just created. And that's what we're going to format up in using the Ext4, or you could use XFS, you've got a choice, and basically start to use that pooled resource across those two cards. There is a command called VGC cluster, and again this will give you lots and lots of information about what's going on with the system at the command line level as well. So you can do VGC cluster, and you can type things like vSpace list, and it tells you that I have a vSpace 2, it's in a good state, it's 100 gig, it's using TCP/IP, and if you actually look at the hosts here, it's pulled together that 100 gig from both. So let's just make a file system. Make fs /dev/ I think I called it vSpace 2. That's really simple Ext4 file system being made onto that pool of flashcards, and it's telling me it's done. So let's actually mount this. Really straightforward Linux. I change the type /def vSpace 2, and I'll stick it on the traditional MNT vSpace 2. If I do a df-h, there we have it. vSpace 2, it's 92 gig usable because of the overhead of the file system. If I cd to that, and again, there we are, a very, very clean file system. Here we are back at the host view, showing our aggregated card consumption. The key thing now, someone said, well, what happens if we want to expand this, or maybe add another card or another node into this pool? And again, very, very straightforward. You'd add it here, the host, if it was a node, or if you're doing separate management, and just add the server in with the card. You would go to host view, obviously check that new node is configured, and literally add it into the cluster. One of the key things that I think is really nice about this is if I go to the resources tab, and I actually shrink this down, and there's a button here called grow. So I'm just going to click that, and what I want to do, it tells me that I've got a vSpace called vSpace 2 that we've actually mounted. We're using that and shown that already. Really simple. But what I want to do is actually add another 100 gig to that vSpace. So let's actually do that. So type in 100. That's going to add on top that 100 gig. And again, it's actually selected both hosts because obviously we've got an HA pair, but it could be 3 or 4 nodes. Doesn't really matter. So now we hit grow, and what that's actually going to do now is it's carrying on a few operations. It says successful, and there's 2 in progress. You can see this going on here, operations that's going on. It's extending the volume, so taking another 50 and 50. And you'll see this, it's come back successful 10. So if I go to notifications, you can see all the activity that is going on. Now, which is really cool, you'll see the aggregated cards, the usable now has gone up to 400. So 36% of our two 550 gig cards are taken, and it's actually displaying that now. So we've got 200 and 200 in this HA pair. And if I go to resources view, it's now telling me I have 200 gig. So here we are back at the client, and the first thing I'm going to do is just check that the file system's still there, dev/vSpace 2, and it's still showing me as 92 gig. It hasn't expanded because the file system isn't aware of the extra space available. If I just check, make sure it's showing me it's Ext4, the file system. So what we're going to do, there's a command called resize to FS, and what I'm going to do is just simply resize the volume. And that's actually now growing the file system into that extra space. Beautiful. Excellent. df-h, and guess what? There it is there. 184 gigs usable. Remember, it's expanded that into. If I'm still going into the mounted volume, you can actually see there that nothing has changed. So here's the GUI, all looking clean and tidy. If I actually go and have a look at the operations, and if I have a look here, it's telling me that all these things have exceeded the expansion and the creation of the volume. The other key thing is that more and more of this information is obviously in the release notes and the documentation, and certainly back at our website, if you actually go here and have a look, there's some quick facts, there's some really useful resources, and there's some product documentation that you can download. Also on the specifications, it talks to you around the types of models and the device compatibility in terms of Linux versions and kernels, and what is required as a minimum in terms of hardware to drive this solution. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.